Hello everyone, I hope you are doing well. I am Diganto and in this video, we'll be understanding how you can integrate Keploy into your Go application. What is Keploy? Keploy is an open source tool that generates test files and data mocks from API calls. This essentially means that when you make an API call, if you have Keploy integrated, it will generate test files for you, which will have the test cases as well as the data mocks. And then you'll be able to use those files to test out your application. What is the advantage of this? Well, you just don't have to write your own test cases. You won't have to create your own testing environments. And more essentially, you just don't have unrealistic data mocks, since these will be got from values by actually calling the API endpoint. Now, the key approaches that Keploy will follow here is dependency mocking, where the external dependencies will be mocked. There will be record and replay, where you will be able to compare two such test cases between a previous instance and a new instance and then check where the difference was. And finally, you have test coverage, where the entire test summary will be given to you. What test cases passed, what test cases failed, which one passed, which one failed, and everything on your command line interface. Sounds interesting, right? So let's get straight into integrating it and we'll see all of this in action. So first of all, to use Keploy, you need to have Keploy in your machine. To do so, depending on operating system, go into the installation part of the docs and follow these steps there. Since I have my one as Windows, there's a zip file in the latest releases, and upon unzipping it, you'll see something like this. And I simply used to click on keploy.exe, and the Keploy server should be running and good for me. We'll come back to this later on. First, let's see the application that we are dealing with. So this is my application. It's a simple server written in Go with the help of Echo. And what this does is, it has one post request that takes in a name of a person and his or her email, and that inserts that data into MongoDB. That's it. That's a very simple implementation, because our primary goal here is to understand how we'll integrate Keploy in this. So before integrating Keploy, let's see a bit of how this code has been structured. You can see that I have connected to MongoDB, and this is the part of Keploy will be coming later. I just started a new Echo server, and I have passed the post request as person and create person. The function create person is here, where I'll also use something called as insert person. This insert person is in my mongodb.go file. Here you can see that the insert person is here, which will, if it gets the correct data, it will insert it into the database under the collection name of person. And my database name here is sample app. That's it. So this is it. This is a very simple implementation of an API. So let's just run this and see whether it works or not. So I'll just use a normal command, go run server.go. It should run, and yeah, and then we will simply make a request and see. There you go. I'll allow access, and it should be good to go. There you go. It should be good to go. So now let's just send this request, and I got person added successfully. Cool enough. Now if I go and check my database, I should find this data. I'm sorry. I should find this data, sample app, people, and I found this data. So this is it, right? So my app works. Now let's see how we're going to implement integrate Keploy in this. First of all, let's start up our Keploy server. Keploy server is up and running. Let's see the code a bit. So since, as I said, we have to use external, we're going to mock the external dependencies we have used. So we're going to use them. So let's see. We first get the Go SDK, and then we get the integrations. So since I'm using Echo and MongoDB, I have their appropriate integrations. And there you go. I have used here for MongoDB, and this is the part where you're going to use Keploy. The sample app here I've just given as an example. The port is 8080. You can see this, and this is where the Keploy server is running. If you carefully observe, there you go. Keploy server has started at port 6789. Keploy server is at port 6789, and I have then passed this entirely as a middleware in my Echo router or the Echo server. That's it. So that is, with these few simple steps, with these few lines of code, I have integrated Keploy, and now I will get back test cases and I'll be able to test them. Let's see how we can do that. So to that, first of all, I need to set an environment variable in Keploy called Keploy mode to record. So I have used that as export Keploy mode to record. This sets the environment variable of Keploy mode to record, because I have to record test cases, and then I'll simply run this server. So let's see what happens. Once this server starts running, I should be able to, or rather Keploy should be able to record the test files. So let's quickly get into it. I'll just change the name to something else. Let's say John, and we'll just change this to john@example.com. Right. Let's run it, and person has been added successfully. Now see the difference. A test case was recorded here. You can clearly see. And if we go and see, we're going to see now a new folder called Keploy, and we're going to see some tests here. This is the entire test that was recorded. If you carefully observe this YAML file, it was nothing but what we tested, the entire environment. So you can see it was an HTTP kind of a request. These are just for Keploy, but if you see here, it was a post method, right? These were the headers. We used postman. It was a text and plain, we just passed. And there you go. The body was this, a name of John and email of john@example.com. In the response, we got 200, status code 200, and message success, person added successfully as the message. You can see it from here, right? So this is a test file that has been generated. We didn't have to do anything. Just with those few bit of lines of code, we have got this. Now, let's test it against this file, shall we? So what we'll do is we'll test this file, right? So let's test this. So what we'll do is we'll just use, this is the command that if you give, your files are going to be tested by Keploy. So now let's test, and you see, let the application start. There you go. We got all of them were covered. Now let's change something. Let's, instead of doing, so we got, if you carefully see that, we got everything was covered. So there was no problem. But what if we sort of change something here? Let's change this to something, let's say percentage, sequence. Let's change this to and. Enough, right? Now if I start my server here again in record mode, I should be able to record another test case here. Just go for allow access. And just now let's change it to view and example.com. We just send it, and person has been added successfully. But here we got some different, and we obviously will have logged this too. There you go. This is John, and this one is Drew. There you go. Person successfully. This was the output. So this is just been given in terms of escape sequences, and yeah. So this has been the new test case file that we have generated, right? So now if we test an application, we actually should see something different, because ideally, if the first test case, if it has to pass, instead of those exclamations, should have these characters. So let's test it and see. Let's quickly test it and see. So there you will test this. There you go. This was the test case recorded for the second time. And now, once our application runs, there you go. Our test case failed. Now let's see what happens here. Ideally, our first test case fails and second test case runs, because at this point my server returns these 4 ampersand signs, and that's what ideally happens. Out of the total 2 tests, 1 test passed and 1 test failed. If I carefully go ahead and observe, there you go. Test case with ID this. So if I see F8, if I see this F8 one, this one has passed, because this is the current behavior of my application. But for my test case with this ID F6 one, this does not pass, because I should have got exclamation signs, but what I should have got the ampersand signs, which is just represented by these characters, but in return I got exclamation signs. So this is wrong, and there you go. I get the difference here. If you carefully see, the difference has been noted for me, that this was the expected value and this was the actual value. and I get a total coverage that, all right, out of 2 test cases, 1 passed and 1 failed. So you see how useful this was. I didn't have to write a lot of test cases. I didn't have to create my test environments and all that stuff. I just wrote a few lines of code, and voila, I got all the test cases running. I got what the error was, where the error was, if there was any difference. I got test files generated. I can also, a small human readable form, I can read and understand what exactly happened, what was the environment where I was testing. And yeah, so that is it. That is how simply you can integrate Keploy into your application. And as of present, if you go and check Keploy, you're going to see that Keploy has Go and JavaScript completely enabled to be utilized in your applications. The TypeScript one is a work in progress, and so is the Python one. They'll soon be out. For TypeScript, apart from mocks, you can generate test case files, and Python is complete work in progress. So yeah, if you want to help in this initiative, go and check out Keploy's GitHub repo, and do give it a star so that we can reach out to more people. And yeah, so that is it, and hope you have a good time using Keploy in your own applications. And yeah, till then, bye and thank you.